Welcome to How I Got Here, hosted by seasoned educator Jeremy Proper. This is a podcast of conversations with his former students discussing their journey from middle school to where they are today. Guests highlight their successes and the life lessons learned along the way. And now let's welcome the host, Jeremy Proper.
Welcome to How I Got Here with Mr. Proper. I will be talking to former students who will tell their story of their personal journey from Mr. Proper's class, aka Club 128, to where they are now. Everyone has a different path to get to where they are now, and that path may just be the beginning to where they actually want to be. In these podcasts, I hope to tap into the journeys that my former students have taken. For that matter, for them to share their experiences with my current students and anyone else who is interested in seeing how hard work in and out of the classroom actually pays off. Let's welcome today's guest, Miles Stewart. Hey, Miles, how's it going?
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful now that I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
Miles. So, Miles, please take a few minutes to briefly introduce yourself. Please include when you left the Don, where you went to high school, then college, post-college, and anything else that you'd like to include that you're currently doing now.
All right. Well, so I'm what they call the original dragon. First of all, I'm Miles Stewart, like Mr. Proper already said. A lot of people call me Big Miles because I'm really big, and that's
how really big are you? Because we can't hear it over the podcast.
Yeah, no, I'm 6'4", 260 pounds. So
wow, you got me by an inch and a whole lot of pounds.
Yeah, man. So yeah, I went to the Don Estridge in 2004, actually the first year they opened the school, and I was a sixth grader. So I'm the first ever class to go through 6th, 7th, and 8th at the Don Estridge, at the Don. The Don. Yeah, man. They didn't call it that when I was there, but
yes, exactly. That came over time.
Yeah, back in the
What's
day.
interesting is Miles also had me for 7th and 8th grade. So when we first opened, there weren't enough social studies teachers, so I taught 2 grades. So he had me in 7th and 8th. Sorry to interrupt that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. No, so yeah, I went in 04 and then left in 07, and then right in 07, I went straight to Atlantic High. Atlantic High was, the school I was kind of zoned for, so I just went there. And then 10th grade year, I got a soccer scholarship to North Broward Prep. And then so I went there, and that kind of didn't go the way I thought it would go. It didn't work out how I went. I played. I scored some goals, I did my thing, but like just the school didn't feel.
The environment wasn't right for you.
It didn't feel like home for me. So I actually went to a different school. I went to Olympic Heights in Boca. That was also kind of a soccer connection. And then that coach was someone from a travel team, and I ended up living in the right place to get zoned for the school. So it just worked out. And that kind of didn't work out either. So I went right back to my home school, Atlantic. So yes, I went to 3 different high schools, started in Atlantic, finished at Atlantic, and graduated actually pretty young at 17 years old. So I started middle school at 10 years old. I started high school at 13, and then I started college at 17 after finishing at Atlantic.
If you haven't figured it out, Miles was a smart cookie and was promoted. So he was the biggest, youngest kid in the class. So it was a little confusing when Miles showed up, and I finally found out that he was almost 2 years younger than everyone else in the class. But physically, Miles was a very big kid. So I was like, wait a minute, this kid's 2 years younger than everybody else? Are they feeding him dynamite at home? Like, what's going on? So it took a minute, but you had the physical abilities to play with kids much older than you because you were pretty much bigger than everybody else.
Exactly. So yeah, when I was in your class, I used to practice with a 17-year-old team. So I was about 12, 13 at the time.
Wow.
Actually, when I got into your 7th grade class, I was 11. So
right. Supposed to be in 6th grade, and he's already in 7th. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then that after high school, then you were able to procure more scholarships to play soccer elsewhere. Please go into that.
Yeah. I went to go play soccer at Wingate University in North Carolina. I had gone to a showcase there in my junior year and impressed. Ended up going on a recruiting trip and kind of impressed there too. So they invited me to go play there, and I had a couple of other offers, but I chose Wingate because, I'd gotten used to the culture. I had been there like 3 or 4 times and kind of really felt at home there. And I went there, and then, the whole soccer thing didn't work out. Me and the coach didn't see eye to eye on a few things, and the whole soccer thing didn't really work out for me, but it was a really valuable experience living away from home. I had kind of gotten my own apartment on campus after a while, and I just kind of got to be an adult, really, even though
Yeah, exactly. Adulting 101. It does it to you every time when you go to college.
exactly, yeah, getting away from all your family and friends and just like kind of like
I
figuring
got to do my own laundry. I got to pay my rent. I got to go to class. I got to feed myself. All that stuff. Reality.
yeah, adapting to a different environment at the same time. It was good. So, the soccer thing didn't really work out at the college level, but I really got to kind of take that year and learn a lot about myself. And then I ended up coming back down to FAU. And that's where I eventually graduated from with a bachelor in economics, a double minor in entrepreneurship and business administration.
Oh my gosh, that's insane. So basically, you learned something from this. So no mistake was a mistake because you had a learning experience. And that's what I love about Miles as a person, that he absorbs everything, whether you think he does or you don't, he gets it. And he's very introspective and was at a very young age. And he got it, whether he got in trouble or he didn't get in trouble. He understood what he was doing, and he wasn't just doing it to be difficult. He was doing it because he made the conscious choice, but he also knew that the consequences might be right around the corner.
Oh, yeah.
So he learned from all of these things, and that's what I'm trying to convey here, is that we learn so much more from our mistakes than we do from our successes. And he was able to capitalize on this. It wasn't like Wingate didn't work out and he was like, forget college, I'm done. Nope. Came home, dusted himself off, went back to school, and graduated with a major and a double minor, which means he's working his patootie off in school to get it done. That's right. Amazing.
Yeah, and it's funny during school, my stint at FAU, where I'd say I really got that year up at Wingate to learn adulting on my own. So where I came back down to Florida, and with all the distractions, I got a car, so I was able to freaking up and go to Miami or Jacksonville.
Right.
Those are the only road trips I like to take, is like Florida road trips. I didn't want to go out of the state. That's too much.
Yeah.
But so I had a lot more distractions when I was down here. I was in my native area. I can go hang out. I could do anything I wanted, but I learned up at Wingate how to kind of adult and balance those things to actually get stuff done in school. So I ended up picking up a job, pretty much having at least one or two jobs the entire time I was in college down here. And then I got my personal training certificate. I think it was my junior year. I got a license as a personal trainer. So that was like my main gig. And I do other stuff, but like I really got, to kind of be involved in the community and like, doing a lot of stuff other than college. And I still was able to balance it out. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I had something similar. I just didn't really try hard enough in high school, and there were really no colleges that would accept me with my mediocre grades. So I went to community college for a year, and I was the same way. I went to school full time. I worked full time. And then I went to go visit my friends on my downtime at their universities. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm kind of missing something. So I got my act together. I worked hard in community college. Not like that was terribly hard, because for me, it was like 13th grade, got my grades up, and I was able to go to a 4-year school. We all have a different path. Miles is telling you about his path. I'm telling you about mine. And there's nothing wrong and nothing to be ashamed of it, because we both learned from it. We realized that's not the way I want to go. Now I'm going over here, and it's going to work out. And you made it. And that's awesome. So first off, thanks. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, like I was telling you off air, a lot of the stuff that I got pretty decent grades up at Wingate. It's just a lot of the classes didn't transfer because it was a private school. So I
right.
Replace some of those with whatever curriculum work for like the general universities here in Florida.
Yeah, definitely. The gen ed classes didn't just transfer, so you had to retake them. No, I understand. The same thing happened to me with community college, because New Jersey and Pennsylvania are not always reciprocal. So I took a bunch of classes that didn't transfer. So I had to work my butt off when I got there because it wasn't the same. No, but these are important things to explain to people who just don't understand college because they're in middle school. So it's very important that you bring that up. And thank you. That's really awesome.
Absolutely, man.
So first off, thank you so much for coming on and telling my students about your life and your experiences. And it's really important because, you kind of shifted gears. You went to school, you got a degree, you have this business background, but I really want you to tell my listeners, what are you really doing right now?
So, believe it or not, I actually do have a big boy job in my field. I actually work in title insurance. So I'm an
Nice.
executive. I do sales, marketing, business development, and closings on real estate transactions. So
Nice.
that's usually the biggest transaction of most people's life.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. What are you buying that's more expensive than real estate? Nothing.
Exactly. What are you buying or selling that's going to be more than, like you said, your house? And not even expensive, like
No.
financially expensive.
Right.
Like
You'll go through 10 cars in your life. You'll be lucky if you live in 2 houses.
Exactly. And people like really, when you see the sellers and how much they feel their house is worth, and when you see the buyers and how excited they are, it's a very interesting thing. So yeah, I work in the real estate industry full time, and then I guess
On the side,
I'm a professional boxer.
that to me is amazing. I mean, I remember when Miles and I really started to reconnect was during pandemic, and we were going back and forth. And I just got to tell the story that Miles was like, "Hey, I'd love to train you, blah, blah, blah." And I totally misunderstood what he was saying. And I thought that he wanted me to go down to the gym so he could beat the crap out of me in the ring. And he was like, "No, that's not what I'm talking about." And apparently in our conversation earlier, he's like, everybody thinks that. So it wasn't just me, but I thought it was hilarious. I'm like, oh my God, this kid wants to take revenge for me writing him a referral to Mr. Foreman back in 8th grade. And he's like, "No, I just want to train you to show you." And I was like, oh boy, okay. Because he would beat the crap out of me because he's a much larger and a trained professional. Oh my God, it's just so fun. So going along with all this and your amazing educational ride, go back to a time that you can remember when Miles first got inspired for learning. When was that, and what's the story behind it for you?
It was actually a long, long time ago. Like, I was really young. I think I started reading at about 2 years old. Like
Wow, you're just blowing the curve off of everything.
Right. So I started reading at like 2.5. And I
Wow.
remember like my parents were like, would make me show people, like they make me pick up a book and read
it.
And I never understood why it was something to do for an audience. I'm like, why am I reading for all these adults? They're freaking adults. Like,
because the average 2-year-old is not reading.
Exactly. But like in my head, it was like, this is dumb. Why am I reading for an audience? I would always remember, like, I just felt really awkward. But I remember like this one specific, there was like a bunch of people there for like Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever. I don't know how I have this memory of being so young, but I do. And I walked out into the living room and like they made me sit down and read a book out loud.
Like, oh my God.
Yeah. And
Merry Christmas to me. My gift is reading you a story.
Yeah. But they were all they were like my grandpa and my
aunt. Right. Family.
Yeah, people that really cared. So like to them it was like awesome. And then
yeah, this is amazing. Oh my God, this kid's a genius. We got Albert Einstein in that family.
Right. So I think that, and then when I was in kindergarten, I was 4. So and then there was a moment where we're doing read out loud and reading along, and one kid leads and the other kids read behind them. And there was a lot of kids in my class that couldn't read still at the point. Because, most kids are reading about 5, 6.
Right, not at 4. No.
Yeah. And I was already like reading at like a 3rd grade level by the time
you're reading Othello in 4th grade, and these kids can't even read their ABDs and their 1, 2, 4s.
Right. Exactly. So I remember leading the class and like I was saying it and they were repeating me. And there was one time where I said a word wrong on purpose just to see if they would repeat me.
Oh my gosh. Oh, you're so ahead of your time with your intelligence. And that's what I loved about Miles. He was always so smart. He was a Weisenheimer, but there was always intellect behind whatever he was saying. Like he always had something smart to say. So it was this really interesting dichotomy where he would say things and it was like irritating. But then when I thought about it, I'm like, wow, this kid's really smart, but he's irritating, but he's really smart. And I was constantly like in my head fighting, like, is he doing it on purpose? Like this kid is so smart. And you're even telling this story and it just personifies who you are and how brilliant you are as a person.
Yeah. So like, I think just those kind of moments early on with like being able to read, I guess at such a young age, it always made me want to like advance stuff. And, I always took a knack for learning other languages. And just, I always wanted to like put as much stuff in my head as I can. And that's like probably why I love to travel now. I just love absorbing and seeing new things and learning things I didn't know before because it's always been like a weird pattern in my life and I don't want to ruin it. So I'm gonna knock on wood. like I learned something new, and then within the next like 72 hours, that topic will come up somewhere out of nowhere. So I
Wow.
need to use that logic, and it's like
That's incredible.
weird, yo, and
Yeah.
it's like I just learned it just at the perfect time to apply it. You know what I mean?
So speaking of all this, can you please inform my listeners where you were last week?
I was in Colombia.
Doing what?
Yeah, I had my second pro fight in Santa Marta, Colombia, and I won by first round knockout in about 30 seconds.
I thought it was 27, but we'll go with 30.
Yeah,
And
it was
I was
27, I guess, when I knocked him down.
Yeah, and then they had to give him the 10 count. I get it. I don't know much about boxing. All I know is that you whooped his behind. And it was incredible to watch. And I was just like, oh my God, this guy's really good at this too. You're kind of like a jack of all trades. You know, you're like Midas. You want to learn it, you're going to do it, and that's it. And there's no stopping Miles. Like, that's what I love about this freight train of a man. Like, nothing gets in his way. He wants to, I mean, don't get me wrong. He's 6'4", 260 pounds, but he doesn't stop. You know, he uses his intellect, he uses his abilities, and he just keeps going, and success follows this man. And that's what I'm so impressed about, is how successful he's able to be, and nothing stops him. And that is what's incredible.
Yeah,
So
no, it's crazy because like I will say the catalyst probably for anything monumental that's happened in my life has been my willingness to learn. And like the main example would be learning Spanish. Like, to get these fights, all of the business I do is in Spanish.
right.
All of my contacts down there, all of my promoters and
So
everyone.
had you not been able to absorb this language as readily and quickly as you did, this whole career may have never actually happened anyway.
Exactly, because in boxing you have to have 5 amateur fights to go pro. And
Wow.
I don't want to be 29 fighting amateur. I just don't.
No.
So, the ability to go pro in Colombia is actually just based on, what level they see you at and, what they think you can do. And so I was able to get this shot just from being bold enough to go and
Right.
finish with these.
So Miles would definitely say that he used a loophole in order to get his career jumping and starting. And obviously his training and everything that he's done here really laying the groundwork for him going to Colombia and winning. That's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Wow.
it all goes back to just being open-minded enough to learn, because I never would have, I never would have fought those fights if I didn't speak Spanish. If I didn't.
That's incredible. Wow.
Yeah.
So along with your learning, who was that first teacher that made the light bulb come on to make Miles go, this cat or this woman knows I'm smart and they're pushing me? Do you remember who that teacher may have been?
Yeah, man. So it was all right in that fourth, sixth. It was like right in those like really pivotal years from in between 8 and about 12 years old. There was quite a few of them. And I started with my 4th and 5th grade teachers, and it was Miss Horton and Miss Morian. Those ladies were like those are teachers that I, really always remembered and like would always want to go to class and stuff. And like they were like the second mom kind of teachers, really caring, and they took a liking to me. And actually Miss Horton gave me my first ever Game Boy for Christmas.
What?
Yeah. So I came from a family of, 3 kids. So Game Boys and stuff like that wasn't really a part of the whole recipe.
Didn't come around too often. Nope.
Well, at least when I was that age, like
as a young kid, right?
Yeah,
because you have 3 young kids. It's tough.
Yeah, no, my mom got me a Nintendo DS for Christmas when I was like 12, but that's
right.
what she felt was appropriate for me to be walking around with a handheld video game all the time.
Right, exactly.
When you're, I don't know, it was kind of old school. They just didn't see it making sense to walk around with a handheld electronic device all the time. Hint, hint, kids today,
Yeah. Maybe that'll absorb in there. I doubt it, but thank you for saying it. I'll Venmo you the $20 later. Thank you.
Yeah, man. So I didn't really, to them, it was unnecessary. So they never thought to buy it for me. But like, I remember Miss Horton, she said, if I did good or whatever, and really, stayed on top of my behavior and my grades and stuff, that she would give me a Game Boy for Christmas. And
Nice.
I had like a 17 and a 16-year-old kid. So she had 2 boys that had gone through like all of these games and all of these phases. So she had some of their old stuff. And so she,
she upcycled to you.
And she gave me a Game Boy with like 50 games, dude.
Oh my God.
It was sick. It was awesome.
Right. So now all of a sudden everyone's in love with Miles because he's got the fat video game system with all the cool games.
Yeah, man. I was like in heaven, So that was like definitely she, just her doing that and me realizing that like she saw my improvement and she told me something, she made a promise and she followed through. It was like
Right, right. She
she
all of a sudden she made a deal with you,
yeah,
and this adult kept the promise
kept the
and
promise. Yeah. And
didn't
she
renege
held
and
me
did the
to
right thing.
that's a symbol of just how accountable she held me because she always treated me like that. It was like, hey, if you do good, this is what happens. If not, and like it was cool. So it was her, and then the next year I had Miss Maury, and she was really awesome, monumental. And then, yeah, dude, Mr. Proper, gotta say,
Ah, yeah. Here's the $50 I'm Venmoing you. There you go. Applause.
no man, like I was saying to you off air, you were my first male teacher in a core class. Any other?
Wait,
Any
wait,
other?
wait. I don't mean to interrupt, but the claps were over your voice and they couldn't hear it. So start over, please.
No, no, good. No, like I was saying, you were my first male teacher in a core class. So like everybody else was PE or some elective or something like that, but you were my first male teacher in social studies, science, math, English, one of those class. So yeah, man, it was a cool experience, and you were always like funny, and I would I would get in trouble a lot because I would
No, I don't remember any of this. What are
outdo
you talking about? Miles? No.
I was always I was always trying to one up you with a joke, or always trying to, like connect with you in that way. But like I said, I knew I was testing the waters, and sometimes I fell in, sometimes the jokes made you laugh, so it works. Yeah.
Right. And unfortunately, if it didn't make me laugh, he got in trouble. If it made me laugh, I'd look the other way.
Exactly.
So, and that's what I appreciated about Miles was he knew he was going too far, but he was willing to do it just for the joke, just to see if he could make me laugh. And he accepted his punishment. He didn't just argue with me. He knew what he was doing probably shouldn't have been done. But if he got a laugh out of me, I'd look the other way. If
Right.
he didn't, he was like, okay, I get what I deserve.
Yeah.
And that was what was interesting. Like we never really went at it. But again, I think it's because of what you just said, that I was your first real core male teacher, which for a lot of kids, they've never had before. And for you, you were looking for that male bonding. You were looking for that male connection and here at school, and you were able to find it in me, even though we may have not understood each other at the time, as I have told Miles, he, as much as he's telling how great I was to him, Miles is probably one of the kids in my entire 25 years of teaching who made the most impact on me. That he has changed me as a person in a positive way, and he has changed me as a teacher in a even bigger positive way because I was very introspective and I'm like, I want to understand this kid. I want to know where he's coming from because I know there's going to be another Miles and he's going to come around and now I'm going to understand him. And I told this to his sister, to his brothers, because I've taught basically the whole family. And, he has made me a better person and a better teacher. And he is that kid that will stand out in my mind for the rest of my life. And I have to thank you for being that kid and helping me understand, helping me grow as a person and grow as a teacher. Thank you.
Absolutely, man. No, thank you, because you were one of those teachers for me. So it's definitely mutual for sure, man.
And I appreciate it because we still wouldn't be talking to each other all these years later if we didn't have this mutual respect for each other. I'm happy that I get to see him and doing what he's doing and be able to give him positive accolades and let him know how proud I am of him and that he's made it and he's done it and he keeps making it and he keeps doing it. And that's no greater success story to me than you and the fact that you want to include me in your life and tell me. It's unbelievable. Like you think back, like, holy crap, how many people are going to sit there and have a continuing interaction with their seventh grade civics teacher, and yet here you are all these years later on the podcast telling about your life and saying how influential I was. That's just as much meaningful. And here we are having this giant bro fest and loving on each other for all the things that we've done for each other, which is amazing because I'm so glad that I was as influential to you as you were to me.
Absolutely, man.
So if you could turn back time and tell eighth grade Miles some advice, I can only imagine what you tell yourself. What would it be? What would you have said to yourself now with the knowledge you have at this age?
I think I would have definitely said to still be yourself. Definitely still be yourself, but just the same thing that I guess for me, my parents always told me there's a time and place for everything. I think I would have just been better about my time and place, and probably what I focus my energy on. And but that's all part of the learning experience too. But
Right.
yeah, it would definitely be just pick your time and place better, and know when not to say anything and when to just listen. And
Right. And
and
that's the positive of growing up. And you realize that as time goes by. And like I said, once you left my class, I finally understood you. And I wish that I would have understood you a little bit better while in class, because then, yeah, I would have been able to look the other way more, because I would have understood your jokes. I would have seen where you were coming from. You told me all this in the pre-interview, and I was like, oh man, like I told you, I wish I would have seen that Ali G movie sooner, because I would have understood your jokes and where you were coming from. And
right.
and actually, I think that movie's hilarious. And all of a sudden, it's like I saw the movie the week after school was over, and I'm like, oh my God, I finally understand this kid. I wish I would have seen it sooner. So again, you taught me about as much as I think I probably taught you. But that's great advice, learning when to hold them and when to fold them, and when it's time to walk away.
Yeah.
And you figured that out, and that's wonderful. And I'm glad you did.
And another thing, could have definitely been do what Mr. Popper said and invest in Apple.
Oh yeah, remember when we talked about
You
investing
told us
back in the day?
You told us to invest in Apple, and I was like 12. Bro, if I would have taken your advice,
You'd be a millionaire by now.
dude,
How about this? If I would have invested in Apple when I told you to invest in Apple, I'd be a millionaire by now too. So I didn't even listen to my own advice. So don't feel bad.
it's just so crazy. I always told he was like, one of my social studies teachers when I was like in 7th or 8th grade told me to invest in Apple, and my dumb ass
Didn't do it. Right. Well, neither did I. I was like, yeah, I was giving the advice, but I wasn't taking it. I'm the same thing. Like, I'm great at giving the advice, but I'm not so great at following it either. So again, don't feel so bad. Oh, that's so funny. So what would you say was your most challenging educational experience, and how did you overcome that challenge? Like, memory do you have that maybe made you a better student, or made you open up your eyes to certain things? What might have that been?
I think it was accounting. Accounting in college, dude. That class.
Oh man, no, thank you.
Yeah, accounting was so hard, man. Like, and I'm the guy, like, I know I would mess up in your class just for lack of paying attention or not doing my homework on time and stuff. But I actually remember one time where you kind of challenged me, and you said it to me. I remember you said something to me, and it wasn't like you were talking to a kid. It was like you were talking to someone like, what the hell, dude? Like you were like, you're way too smart to have a freaking 41 in my class. I
Right.
had a 41% in your class. It was like a random progress report. It wasn't the full final report card.
Right.
You're like, you're way too smart to have a 41 in my class. What are you doing? Like, you didn't talk to me like a kid. You talked to me like someone like your age. And I remember I sat there and I'm like, yeah, honestly, this stuff is not even hard. And I came into your class and I took a multiple choice test and I got 100 on the next one.
Nice. Nice. Well, I'm glad to see that what I said meant something to you.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. If you don't connect with the teacher, if you don't like the teacher, no matter what they say, it's like, I'm going to do the opposite because I don't care. But I finally stood up to the smart kid and said, hey, smart kid, why are you acting like the dumb kid? You're not doing the work. You're more than capable. You just refuse to do it.
It's like I literally almost wanted to like prove you wrong, or like just have like a yeah in your face kind of moment with it. Like I wanted to get you back. I was like, I'm gonna show this guy. But
and what was great was all you were doing was proving me right.
I know, exactly. So what I'll say a lot to say is like I have a photographic memory. So if I actually apply myself to something, chances are I can usually knock it out of the park. Like all my entire school career, that was the case. Like all of high school and middle school, if I ever applied myself in a class, I was getting an A or B. So
yeah, when you kind of explain to the audience that you went to college and have a major and a double minor, people who aren't good at school and memorizing stuff don't do that. They just go, I'll just go with the 1 degree, not the 2 others.
Yeah. So it kind of worked out like that. And I was good. I like in high school, once I kind of figured out my school life balance and my school joke balance, I was consistently in like the 3.6s or higher. Like it was just easy for me in high school.
That's awesome. I want to explore that more because I always have the kids asking me to say, how was the transition different from middle to high school? And how were you able to kick it up into high gear? I mean, we all understand your superior intellect from everything that you've told us, but how were you able to do that? Where middle school, you were kind of cruising along, and then all of a sudden high school comes, and now poof, you have this huge GPA. Like, what was the transition, and when did that finally kick in where you went, oh, I need to do this?
I just think when I realized, like, you know, since I was so into my soccer thing, and I think sports was like a little motivation, when I realized how strict they were about the minimum GPA to play sports. And, you know, the fact that your GPA in high school actually matters. Like, it actually
Yes.
stay with you for the rest of your life. So,
Yeah, you can't shake that.
yeah,
And that little number that's on your report card too that says what your class rank is.
right. All that stuff. Like your middle school GPA and stuff, like, yeah, it stays on the records, but no one's like, can I see your middle school transcripts? But like
High
everyone
school.
wants to see
Basically, middle school gets you into high school, and high school gets you into college.
and life, honestly, because like
True.
there's other things they'll use your high school transcripts for. You know what I mean? Just to prove that you passed high school. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, exactly. It's not like, okay, I got D's. You know, people want to see what it is that you could do.
yeah, man. So I think this is probably outdated by now, but I remember like early on when I was like 18 or 19, there was a job that asked to see my high school transcripts.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That was like, I think it might have been some kind of internship or something like that.
Oh, yeah. Because they need to go further back and see what you were doing and how long that this positive has been going on, for sure.
Right. So like, I think when I realized that it was all high stakes in high school is when I kind of was like, okay, I got to figure out,
Time to hunker down.
yeah, how to just keep everything at a certain consistency. And
Nice.
yeah, I think when I figured the system out and realized, you know, each 9 weeks you get a report card, but the average of those two grades is what actually goes on your transcript. You know, it's kind of when I figured out a little system. I'm not going to advertise this.
Yeah, right.
They balance out, is all I'm going to say. Your grades get,
Right.
but you have to make sure you're on top of your stuff. And yeah, I think it just clicked like pretty much in ninth grade when I realized like all these grades are going to determine college and determine, you know, my
Right. And that foundation in ninth grade is what determines the whole thing. Because if you mess it up, it's like next to impossible to fix it over the next 3 years. What you do in ninth grade determines 10th, 11th, 12th, college, rest of your life. So you have to go in, you know, guns a-blazing, arms a-swinging, do whatever it is that you can.
Yeah, and then I think that prep school experience actually did help because I went there in 10th grade and I had already been pretty academically solid. Like they really looked hard at your grades. Like you couldn't get in that school.
Right. That's prep school. They take that stuff seriously, especially if they're going to give you a scholarship and it's, you know, tens of thousands of dollars to attend the school. They want your grades to be where they are. They're not just picking Miles because he was a great soccer player. I mean, yeah, that helped. But his grades were also a big determinant.
Major. Yeah, there's a lot of good athletes that didn't get in because of their grades. Like it's just
right. And people don't understand that. They think, oh, I'm the greatest whatever player in Palm Beach County. I can go wherever I want. Wrong.
Nope.
They want academics just as much.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Going along with all this hard work and everything that you're talking about, how did Miles unwind? Like, what was your downtime when you're taking all these difficult classes and doing all this stuff? What did you do to just go, okay, decompress? It's Miles time.
And this is back in high school or college?
Whatever you want. Doesn't matter.
I guess
both.
When I was in high school, it was really just like I was all about soccer. So like when I got to play is when I would really like, even though my schedule was set up like go to school, get off, practice at school, and then go practice for my club team right after. So it was like kind of like a long work shift, but it just felt good to play. You know, I like to play.
Yeah, it's what you liked. It was your thing.
It was my thing. And just like playing and then just taking off my shoes and like walking on the grass barefoot. It was just, you know, I just hang out, chill on the field, and then, you know, just go home, eat some good food and do it all
over again tomorrow.
Yeah. And so like on the weekends, I would have games with my club team. So I would play a game. And I think the best relaxation is like, you know, after a game where you had your whole week of school, you got a Saturday morning game, you play, you score, you know what I mean? You did it. It's like you just feel like you have completed your week. And that's funny. It just it set me up for adulting so well because it's like Saturday, I get to relax, you know.
You do your thing. Yes, exactly. That's us adults. You know, you work hard all week long and the weekend is all about me.
Exactly. So I think, yeah, just having that post-game relaxation with your sandals on, hanging out, I'd go somewhere with my dad, go get some good food and just go to the beach and just whatever the day called for, just kind of just have a chill day after that game. And I would just always unwind, definitely with the athletic side of things, working out, hanging out on the
And
beach.
it's awesome because you rarely hear somebody who is so into a sport that their downtime is playing the sport more. Like
Yeah.
you don't normally hear that. Most of the time it's like, oh, I do love the sport, but I need to do something else. I rode a bike, I watch movies, I play video games, whatever. For you, it was like more sport, please.
Yeah.
But that's how much Miles loved soccer.
Yeah.
That was his thing. And it's funny
Dude, I
because
would
we were
literally
talking.
just watch YouTube videos, like on my, like literally, if I wasn't playing, I would be watching some YouTube videos, watching highlights, watching different tricks. I would play video games, but they'd all be sports video games,
Right. Yeah, it's all sports related, but that's what's amazing. You were so into it. You were fully immersed in all aspects, and every part of your life was like, even my downtime, more soccer. But that's what made him a great player. That's what made him get scholarships. That's what allowed him to do all these things. And he just put everything into it, and that's how you get good at something. It just doesn't happen. Somebody doesn't wave a magic wand and go, oh, you're going to be good at this now. No, he put in the time, and that's what he did. But I just find it amazing that your downtime was more soccer. And that to me is just a testament to the type of person that you are, that you want this to happen, and your intestinal fortitude is, I'm going to make it happen, and I'm going to work harder, and my downtime, more soccer. I've actually not heard that from most people. Most people are like, yeah, I needed to put that down and do whatever. And I just find that to be an amazing trait, because you're just not the, give up, let go kind of guy. And that's impressive.
Yeah, and then there was of course the usual kid stuff. I guess at least in my age, we were pretty simple with our social activities. It was like we all go see a movie or we all go to Boomers, and that
right.
was like
not a lot of choices here in Boca Raton.
Exactly, at 14, 15 years old, we're all just
right. You can't drive. You got to rely on mom.
Yeah, and then
they're only going to let you go to so many places.
Exactly. So it was that was all that was like once, twice a month we would get together, do that, maybe get together and walk around the mall or something. But it was always, really low key, just hang out with the friends kind of stuff. And then, when I got into my ages of driving and having my friends having cars and the quote unquote degenerate years, we all know how
everything changed.
Yeah, everything changes, of course, when you get into like 18 and all that stuff.
Definitely, because you have more freedom. The car allows you to do stuff, more responsibility. Your parents are a little bit more lenient. Just don't wreck the car and everything will be great.
Yeah, so I'd say when I got to college, there was a whole lot of other ways to unwind that if done in moderation are great, but if not, they can become a distraction.
Yes, can, for sure. So, what did you learn about Don Estridge as a school after you left its hallowed halls? What did high school show you that Don Estridge, you didn't know that it taught you? Was there something that you went to high school and went, I didn't realize Don Estridge taught me that?
That you didn't realize that they did teach me?
Yeah, like you got to high school and you realized, oh my gosh, I learned that in middle school and I had no idea.
Oh, definitely like the fact that, Microsoft Word and Excel and all that stuff, other kids didn't really learn how to use that in middle school, at least at that time.
When you were there, right?
Right. When I was in high school, like when I was a freshman in high school, there was kids who were not really taught in middle school how to use PowerPoint, Excel, Word, all that kind of stuff. It was foreign to some kids, but like for me and Don Estridge, that was like, we had a whole class on that stuff.
Right. Because it's literally called Don Estridge High Tech Middle School.
Right.
Back in the beginning, see, these kids don't really have to do the same technological classes mandatorily as you did. So when Miles went there, it would. Go ahead. No, you did it.
Yeah, it was so normal. It's so normal now to do all the things that kids do with their phone and everything. There's an app for everything now. But when we were kids, they were inventing it all. So all of us, we were like the guinea pigs for everything, basically.
Right. And so they had to take a class to learn how to do all this stuff. They came and they had to learn how to type. They had to learn how to use the internet. They had to learn all this stuff because Miles didn't have a cell phone stuck in his hand when he was 10 years old, 9 years old, 8 years old, didn't have an iPad. You know why? Because it wasn't invented yet. So therefore, he actually had to be taught how to use these things. Whereas these kids today, they've had iPads and computers since, before they even went to school.
Yeah, no, I mean, literally my niece is 5 and she has a tablet. She walks around with a tablet.
Right. All of them. It's the way it is. Like my niece and nephew, the same thing. Since they were little babies, 3, 4 years old. Here you go. Watch this, watch that, do your thing. Exactly. That's just the way society has changed from when Miles was there to when the kids are there now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's awesome. So as I end all these podcasts, I ask the same question. I know it's been a minute since you've been at the Don, but do you remember who Don Estridge, the person, was? Because you had to take a class about him, or it was incorporated into your class. These kids today, not so much.
He worked for IBM, right?
Correct. And IBM was located where? Do you remember?
Right where the school is.
100%. Hold on. Applause. Awesome job. And for the last part of the question, do you remember what Don Estridge is really known for? Like, what does he get credit for? He invented something.
The computer.
That's it. Ding, ding, ding. And hold on. Do I have a cheer? There we go. Go Miles. So supposedly he invented the personal computer at Don Estridge. And I don't know if you remember this, but we have his personal computer in the front office. Do you remember that?
Yep.
And now it's in a glass cabinet. His family donated it to the school when they found out that we were going to name it after Don Estridge, because unfortunately in the 80s, he died in a plane crash going to a conference with his wife. And then we decided to name it after him because that's where the computer was invented. And we have his personal computer that was donated by his family, which is a wonderful thing. I'm so glad that Miles remembers that, because not everybody does. That's incredible. That's just amazing memory. Well, you did say you have a photographic memory, so that's probably why. But Miles, on behalf of the How I Got Here podcast, I wanted to say thank you so much for coming on and telling your story, because I'm sure there's a whole bunch of Miles out there that will learn something from it and will appreciate the fact that you can be smart, that you can be an athlete, you can be successful, and if you put your mind to it, you can be whatever you want to be. And I've never been more proud to interview someone who came on all these years later and being as successful as yourself and being positive and telling it as it is. So thank you so much for coming on. It's so greatly appreciated.
Oh man, it's a pleasure. I'm really glad I got to do it, for sure.
Thank you so much. Have a great one.
All right, you too.
Thank you for listening to How I Got Here podcast with Mr. Proper. Music provided by Miss Mata. Thank you to Patty Fernandez for the introduction. Thank you to Seth Proper for logistics and behind-the-scenes production. Join us next time for another episode of How I Got Here and more stories of former students and their journey.